Hello, and welcome to what I'm calling the Coda episode of the Starforged Alpha Cluster campaign. When I started this campaign, um, if we go all the way back to, gosh, where's the map of space? Right. When I started this campaign, I said, okay, this is our first cluster. We're going to run a campaign in here, and then we'll maybe do some campaigns in other clusters. And I fully expected to be playing this campaign for a very, very long time. I've done 40 some odd through 3 episodes of it. And I had already said that we were going to be running this one quest as our final quest. But it's been over a month since I played a session, and I did make a post saying that I got swamped with school, and I did, and I had some personal things going on, and I'm winding down my D&D campaign. But the reality is that I have just not been inspired to play this game since the last session. And quite frankly, I felt like I've been really pulling teeth to get the last several quests done. And over the time that it's been between now and the previous session, I've really come to the conclusion that Starforged is just not the game for me. Um, and I was going to try to push ahead and force myself to finish this so that I would. I hate leaving things unfinished. I really do. And I wanted to bring this campaign to a conclusion. Um, but a couple of things stopped me from doing that. One is simply the way Starforged and Ironsworn work. There's no guarantee I'm going to get this done. And it's entirely possible when I roll for progress, even if I have 10 progress, I could roll double tens and roll a miss and still not know the secrets of the Orb of Nightmares. Also, I've recently started watching another solo channel. This is somebody called Kill 10 Rats. And he's got some Ironsworn playthroughs and some Starforged. And I've listened to a little bit of it, but very recently he put out a video where he talked about the state of his channel. It had been about a year, and he'd been doing this content for a year. And what he realized was that he wasn't enjoying some of it. That he started it as a hobby, but once he started getting views and likes, he started feeling like he was obligated to continue doing things even if they weren't fun, because that's what the views and the likes were telling him. And although I wasn't getting a lot of views or likes on these videos, Lord knows, you can see that in the stats. Each of my videos gets maybe a like or two, and a handful of viewers, usually in the single digits or low teens max. And I only have a few hundred subscribers, nearly none of whom watch these videos, and I'm not complaining about that. Just statistically, this is a super tiny channel, and pretty much I'm the only one who watches it. I still felt, obligated to continue because there were some people who were maybe watching it, and a few people were making comments in the earlier episodes of this campaign, and I thought, gee, maybe if I had kept it up and kept putting out a couple of episodes a week the way I was, those people would have kept following it, and I feel like I let them down. But ultimately, as Kill 10 Rats was saying, I can't remember his real name, but as he was saying on his channel, this has to be what we enjoy, right? If you have 100,000 subscribers, you're in business, and you have to make your customers happy, right? Critical role. They have to make sure each week that they put on a show that their thousands and thousands and thousands of viewers are going to like. Luke Hart from the DM Lair has to make sure that he's putting out content that his 100,000 or whatever viewers will like. Same thing with Seth Skorkowski. But this isn't a monetized channel. I don't have a Patreon. There's none of that. And although I do put out content to be enjoyed by others, and to sort of demonstrate how to do some of this, I mean, there were several people who asked, how are you doing this in Foundry? What mod are you using? So, well, hopefully a few of you have learned where to find this great mod by Ben Straub and Arsec. So that's great, but it still has to be something that I like. And unfortunately, Starforged is not it. I've been planning for a while to continue my solo gaming using different systems. I'm looking at Hardmaster, but I'm looking probably first at Pathfinder for Savage Worlds, possibly using Savage Worlds with the generic Fantasy Companion when that comes out, if they put out a Foundry mod for it. So all of this is sort of up in the air, and I highly doubt that I'm going to post any of it in this particular way. So much of what the Kill 10 Rats video was talking about in his little 15-minute wrap-up for the year a few weeks ago really resonated with me. I just watched it today. I was getting ready to maybe try to force myself to do another episode of this today of like actual play, and so much of what he said resonated with me. For example, he said he struggles with coming up with narrative in science fiction. It's just not his most comfortable genre, and I agree. I have very much struggled with it. Coming up with ideas, figuring out who the antagonists are going to be, naming factions, figuring out their motivations. It's one thing to do random rolls and get oracles, but you still have to be inspired. And I felt like it was much easier for me to get inspiration in the Ironsworn game because it was fantasy. And it's been very hard for me to do this in Starforged. So I just think this is not the setting for me. Not just because of the game system, although there's that, but because also of the theme. And so I'm going to probably go back to a fantasy theme, and probably a low magic sword and sorcery type of theme. Definitely not high magic, probably not high fantasy with epic quests. I've got some ideas on how to do this differently. I'm not going to really get into that here. If they work out and I feel like there's a way to show what I'm doing, I might present them to the universe on YouTube like I have done with this playthrough. But that's for the future. I feel like I'm making almost the exact same video that Kill 10 Rats made a few weeks ago, and that the one that I just watched. Because he said the same thing, right? There's some stuff he's doing that he likes, and he's still got to figure out the format in which he's going to present it. Another thing that he said was that although rolling oracles can provide you with a lot of great inspiration, it's not a watchable setup unless you're going to do a huge amount of editing, the way Trevor Duvall does with Me, Myself, and Die, and be really good at that. To record it live, even every once in a while, I would say I'm going to pause it and think about it. And sometimes you got to walk away and think about it. And oftentimes your initial descriptions or your dialogue, not very good, right? He said you're just getting like what the GM would tell you in 5 minutes live improvising, and you're not getting the much better worded, much more eloquent narrative you would get, say, from the second or third draft of writing. And so I don't know what that means for him. I suspect what it means is he may play and then turn it into written fiction and then dictate it. I'm not sure how he's going to do that. I'm not sure I would want to do that. One of the things I actually liked about this was recording it and being able to watch it rather than writing it all out. Writing it makes it feel like it's not a game to me, whereas recording it, I'm just playing the game, and then I can watch it later and just see myself playing the game, and possibly write it down. But one of the things that I actually wish I hadn't done, because it was a pain in the neck for me, is these session logs where I was recording everything that happened. Having to go back and watch it is to refresh is fine, but having to sit there and write it all down. And if you look at the earlier ones, I was even going through this step of where's the journal? I was even going through this step of here we are, session log. Sorry, of like bold facing the strong and the weak hits and everything, and italicizing the moves, and that's just too much detail, right? A simple summary would have been enough. So I made a lot of mistakes with this, and that decreased my enjoyment. And so overall, I feel like this campaign for me has run its course. I don't really feel any interest in continuing it. To be perfectly honest, I really don't care what happens with the Orb of Nightmares. And there was a part of me that was hoping that early on in the quest, Krista would get trapped in the orb like Wiglaf did and fail her scene challenge, and I could just end the campaign. And if that's what you're thinking, you should end the campaign, in my opinion. So this is where we will end it. and I don't think we're going to go any further. I want to say a few things about the game system. I won't be playing Ironsworn or Starforged any further, at least anytime soon. There's a lot to like about both Ironsworn and Starforged. First of all, I want to say the product quality for Ironsworn. I haven't gotten my Starforged paper product yet, but the product quality is outstanding. Um, Sean's a very good writer and a very good designer. The world truths and the world building tools are fantastic. He is an excellent game designer. But the reality is that the Powered by the Apocalypse method is just not for me. I'm not a fan of the very abstract moves. I prefer having really specified out, like a champion's character sheet, my strength, my dexterity, my constitution, body, intelligence, ego, presence, comeliness, PD, ED, right? Having points of powers, active cost, rolling dice of damage, measuring how many hexes to target, -1 per 3 hex range modifier, all of that kind of stuff. The detail, the granularity, the what they call the crunch. I like a crunchy game system. To some degree, the better, the bigger the crunch, the better. That's why I like Rollmaster. It's why I become very interested in Harnmaster, which is a very crunchy system. Savage Worlds isn't as crunchy, but it's got some crunch to it. It's got enough that I like it as well. D&D, Champions, very crunchy game. These are my bread and butter. And so what I need to do is find a way, and I've got some ideas I'm not going to talk about here, to solo with a crunchy system. So until I come back with a new video about something, I hope you all are good, behave yourselves, enjoy your role-playing games, and this is Scrapperlock saying so long, and be good.